nowadays, and so I and all Chuck to know.
And as we always do on a Monday morning, we are joined by the TTPS this morning in the form of WPC Shraddha Jeffers, attached to the Cyber and Social Media Unit of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Joining us, we say welcome, and we are excited to have this conversation as we're heading back to school, and we're talking about Cyber Monday, safe social media practices. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
I had to make sure I get it all out because we have covered so much with the TTPS, but back to school changes the focus a little bit.
Yes, it does.
We are very much in the digital land space, as we just heard from our previous guest, in every facet, especially education. So let's jump straight into the conversation with some perhaps areas of focus that we should pay attention to. What are effective online safety practices that students should adopt?
Right. Well, as it relates to social media and your online presence, I think it's very crucial for everybody to be safe online, particularly for students that are going back into the secondary school system, even primary school children. I mean, social media, it's all around us. Technology, it is all around, it is us, right? So what we tend to do, we always, for instance, when we do awareness workshops in schools or lectures, we tend to tell children, listen, don't overshare content and information. You don't need to disclose stuff like your location. You don't need to let persons know what schools you're attending to. So always be mindful and careful of as to what you're putting out there in the public domain. Because whatever you put out there, I mean, social media, when it goes out, it doesn't come back.
Correct.
All right? So that's one of the things that we always tell students to be mindful of. Additional to that, your privacy settings. Now, apps are constantly doing upgrades and updates, right? So you always need to be taken into consideration, okay, maybe I upload a picture and I want it just for my friends, but not knowing that, okay, maybe Facebook did an upgrade and it's public now.
Right.
Always check your privacy settings to ensure that everything is under wraps, like how you would want it to be, right? Additional to that, think before you share. Yeah, not everything that comes to your mind you want to divulge and put it out there. Right? So we always tell students, listen, think about it. Not because something transpired with you and a teacher in school means that you have to run to Instagram and put up a post about Miss.
Right.
Stay away from doing things like that.
I think it's important to underscore that one, not just for students, but adults need to employ that as well.
Yes.
And I think that with the younger persons, it might be even more difficult. We might have some reservation because we might think our boss might see it or somebody you don't want to see might see it. The youth may not think that way because they are of that ilk to share everything digitally.
Right.
What is our workaround to that? How do we deter them?
Please don't overshare your content. Think about it this way, your digital footprint. As I said, whatever goes out, it doesn't come back, right? So what we tend to do, pay attention to what you're doing. And apart from that, also don't just add random persons on your pages or on your social media handles. If you don't know the individual, don't add them. I remember one time in a school, I was speaking to some students and the child is 15 years old. I was like, okay, how much Instagram followers you have? And he was like, Miss, I have 4,500 followers. I'm like, how much of these people you actually know? You know, so you don't just add strangers on your account. So that is one of the things that we always tell students, don't do that. If you don't know the person, don't add them. Even though we have mutual friends, don't add them.
You know, Shraddha, one of the things that you would have mentioned is paying keen attention. And we know all the time that there is, of course, the role of the parent when it comes to ensuring that their child's online presence is safe, for want of a better expression. But how can parents actively engage and monitor their children's social media, especially when we see now that children learn very quickly how to, let's say, navigate away from their parents' eyes?
Okay, as it relates to parents, we play a key role in what our children do, their online presence. So what we always encourage parents, don't just say social media is a young people thing. I mean, we can't protect our children. We can't protect them, but you need to play a very pivotal role in what they are doing. Students may not like this, but I would say it nonetheless. Parents go through the devices. Yeah, pick up the device, go through the devices, go through their messages, join their accounts. If your child have an Instagram account, ensure that you are also a follower on their Instagram account. So that way, you get to monitor their use. Now, there's an app, well, Snapchat. Now, Snapchat have features like, you know, after 24 hours, the messages disappear. parents, get yourself aware with some of the terms. What is a highlight? What is a reel? What is a story? Even, for instance, the emojis. Children could be having conversations right in front of us, and it could go over our head because we don't understand the terms. So I would always encourage parents to listen, pick up their devices and go through it. Even if your child have a password on their device, mommy, daddy, you should know the password.
That's right.
Because the reality is, just in a natural sense, you would want your child to be safe. You need to let them know, listen, when you're online, you have to be safe. Don't talk to anybody that you don't know, and have these conversations. And what I realize, a lot of parents, they just have it. Social media is young people stuff. I don't need to be a part, but we cannot hide our children away from social media. I mean, it has its benefits. So parents, pay attention to your children. Look at what they are doing. Yeah?
Play an active role in the process.
You have to, and be a role model as well with what you as well share with your kids.
Now, you are sharing what you shared with students, but
Yes.
they must give you feedback as to what they encounter. So what are some of the things that they encounter in the online world that we should be wary of?
Okay, so for sure with online use, children, they experience a lot of challenges. One for sure would be the cyberbullying. Then there's the grooming, because remember, there are predators out there trying to get in contact with our children. They will engage in conversation. So, okay, where are you? Who you living with? Who's home with you? What school you go to? And unknowingly, children would provide information and content just like that with persons that they do not know. Right? So these are some of the challenges children in particular will be facing.
I think a good one to underscore seems harmless enough, but I realize that a lot of adults are falling prey to it too. It's those posts like in your stories where they're asking you to post yours. So they'll have a questionnaire of like your dog, what they like to eat, where they sleep, what's your dog's
That is a
name.
lot of information.
And I sat the other day and thought, if someone is robbing my house and my dog protects my house, they know exactly what to bring, where the dog
Exactly.
is,
Correct.
what the dog's name is. And I'm willingly giving that to you because it's a trend on Instagram. So I imagine the kids have similar things that they will fall prey to as well.
Yes,
since
they
we
do.
adults fall prey to it too.
And additional to that, there's also the addiction. Now, on average, the average person spends about 4.5 hours with straight screen time, right? That's just normal. Now, what we find with students, me too, I'm guilty. So in terms of that, there's always that addiction. So children, they tend to spend this excessive amount of time on screens, and even when it's time to take it away from them, they're feeling like, oh gosh, like you're doing them an injustice. They need that screen time. So it takes them away from their normal responsibilities, even as students.
Wow, that's, one of the things, just to go back to what you were mentioning with the trends, is also things like dumps. You see dumps happening every single month.
Right, where they're posting just everything that happened for the month, so to speak. And
So
that's a lot of
oversharing.
information.
It's oversharing. Yeah.
So now I have to become a clean aesthetic girl and post my hand alone and
that's
like
it.
part of the things. We have plans.
Now, what about personal information? I know you would have just touched on it briefly, but it can be quite a challenge when you want to share and you want to get involved, even something like even signing up for stuff like that. So how do we speak to our children, or how do we protect them from this?
Okay, so what you can do, all right, if you want to share information, you could minimize your viewers or the persons that will have access to your information. Like I mentioned earlier about the privacy settings. You limit your persons that could view your content. Don't make it public. Because when you put things out there, it's unwanted stuff that you put out in the public domain, and you don't want that. Yeah?
And it's interesting because these apps, they have these features. Close friends on Instagram.
Yes, you can.
You do have the option of making your profile private as well. But it definitely can be a challenge when we see the change in culture, where now people want to be out there, not understanding how that can actually adversely affect their personal lives or their professional lives as well.
One thing that I found worked for me with my nieces was telling them employers can now go back to your Instagram,
That
your
is
Facebook,
true.
and your posts and see what you posted 6 years ago and judge you on that.
And they will.
We didn't have those problems.
No, we didn't.
Thank
we didn't.
God. So I think those little tidbits are what we can do as parents or guardians, as adults, to guide them. We understand what they are navigating as well. Tell us how the TTPS actively supports those endeavors.
Okay, in terms of, before we reach the TTPS, I would always say if you're experiencing any issues or problems online, firstly report it to the actual platform. Right. So, for instance, like Meta, there are ways in which you can report, things that you have in issues, but you could report the post so that they would remove the post, or they could remove the person account, right? And then if you are experiencing things like cyberbullying, online threats, harassment, things like that, you can report it to the nearest police station, right? You go to the station, you make a report, you always screenshot the information. So don't just delete the account, screenshot, so at least you have a paper trail as to what was there before, right? Screenshot it and go to the station and make a report.
Now, in terms of that process, what happens next? Do we follow up? Is there a certain time? Is there somebody we stay in touch with? And is it digitally accessible to us to follow up with the TTPS?
Yes, you can follow up. So when you go to the station and you make the report, the initial officer that take a report, that would be the investigator assigned, and then someone at the cyber and social media unit will deal with it, and we would communicate with the person that made the report as well. And additional to that, also at the cyber and social media unit, we do outreach sessions or lectures at schools. So we are open as well, for instance, like principals, guidance officers, because, you know, from time to time there are problems that most schools are facing right now in terms of cyberbullying and things like that. So we are willing to even go into the schools, have lectures, not just with the students, but also with Parent Teachers Association. We could meet with you or have a conversation just to get parents, teachers, get everybody on board, because, I mean, social media is there. You know, it's out there, so we need to be a part of it.
I'm glad that you were part of this conversation this morning, giving us some real food for thought and things that we could utilize as we are continuing to have conversations with the TTPS. This one particularly gets to heading back to school so that we, the guardians and parents, are equipped to support students as they navigate the cyber world. Thank you very much to Woman Police Constable Sharada Jeffers of the Cyber and Social Media Unit of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service for joining us this morning. We appreciate you tremendously.
Thank you. Thank you.
Guys, we are going to continue. Your birthdays are up next, so you don't want to miss it. The Now Morning Show will be back after these messages.